Thank you very much, Charlie, and bless you, by the way, little sneezing fit from Charlie at the end there. That match has finished Manchester City 2, West Ham 1, slightly unreflective scoreline. I feel at the end, largely due to Lanzini's scintillating. Was it the last kick of the game? Must have been the last kick of the game, really. I mean, okay, there's a few disclaimers before we start this particular review, by the way. The first one must really be that I feel that was a tough game for everybody today. The conditions were king, put it this way. There was a game postponed today, I understand it, and you can certainly see why. I'm not suggesting that game should have been postponed because it was infinitely playable, but there was a point, I think, particularly in the last 20 minutes of the first half, when it was really unplayable. And I've got to say, massive respect to the West Ham fans, in fact, any fans today who turned up in that weather. All that being said, the West Ham fans were a lot louder than the Man City's fans. At the end there, did you hear we were 2-0 down? Lovely chorus of bubbles at the end. Long journey home. Motorway's going to be nasty. It's going to be freezing at the train stations. Fair play to everybody that went up there. One of them, of course, is Gio, by the way. He's Scottish. He's used to the weather, isn't he? Worse than that, he's used to. But also got to say, fair play to the teams. And even the... I don't know how the teams, the referee, linesman, how anybody saw the ball at some point during that. So I am going to be talking about the conditions quite a bit because Man City handled the conditions a lot better than West Ham. Also, I want a little bit of a disclaimer as well at this point that I've got to be honest, that was the worst feed I've had for quite some time. Now, that wasn't on BT and it wasn't on Sky Sports. It wasn't anywhere. So everyone's fishing around trying to get whatever coverage they can. Mine was crap and grainy anyway. When it started snowing, honestly, I couldn't see crap. I couldn't see the ball. Couldn't tell one player from another. So if I accuse someone of doing something they didn't do, please excuse me. Honestly, it just was like a whiteout. It all looked the same. Anyway, the conditions. Let's deal with the conditions first of all on there. There's an old saying which is that bad conditions, snow, heavy rain, wind, they're a leveler. That's what you get told. They're a leveler. The meaning of that is that it basically evens out any advantage anyone might have. So basically, if there's a really boggy pitch, a skillful team, their skill is negated. A team of bruisers can beat a skillful team. Man United would have a tough time playing against the dog and duck pub team in bad conditions. That's how the saying goes. Discount it. It's utter rubbish, by the way. The worse the conditions are, the more your technique comes into play, and the more important it is that you have good technique. And I felt that today it really showed. Look, when the ball's slippery and when the ball's wet, it's not a leveler. It's basically the better your technique, the better you're going to really need it because it's even harder than it normally is. And I felt today City's technique, it helped them, and our players that didn't have particularly good technique, it was really evident today. I also felt that that particularly, this is the first time I quite like Moyes' policy. I quite like having big guys in there. But I felt today was really the first time I felt a real hindrance because of the weather conditions. Our policy of having a bigger, sort of heavier set, bigger guys, slower guys in our team works for us almost all the time. Today it didn't. I felt the Man City players didn't get as stuck in the pitch as we did. They were faster, they were past it better. I just thought, that they did better. That being said, actually, we didn't do too badly. We didn't realistically, we didn't do too badly today. And if ever there was an isolated game, this is it. Hopefully, we're not going to see conditions like that again. It's just so difficult for anyone to play in it. And fair, absolutely fair play. The first start of the half, the start of the first half, I thought we were playing quite well. Actually, Ben Rama sort of had a chance, but it was played a little bit behind him for Antonio, but Antonio done really well and skinned his man down the left, got the ball over, but the ball sort of lacked a little bit of accuracy. That being said, Ben Rama could have done a little bit better, but I don't think he was sort of helped with the pass there, really. at this point, the pitch is getting. It's starting to get worse, and it's starting to snow an awful lot. City start to get a foothold in the game, but I felt we were handling it reasonably well. I've got to say, I thought we were defending pretty well. That being said, the longer the game went on, and that, as the conditions got worse in the first half, the more evident it became that our, should we call them a front? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Look, basically, let me say Antonio, Benrahma, and Fornals. That wasn't really firing for him. It wasn't really happening because we switched formation ever so slightly for this game. So we had Cresswell playing at sort of left centre back and Masuaku playing as sort of left wing back. But realistically, rather than some people calling it 3 at the back, it's more of a 5 at the back when you're playing against Man City. What it means you were losing is we're losing one of those up front. And one of the guys that was sacrificed was Jared Bowen. How much difference he would have made, I don't know. But I thought it was really tough. It was really laboured. I thought Man City did a good job of fouling Antonio today, actually. I thought Diaz was already on a card. I thought he was. And then later on in the second half, Antonio tried to spin him and he took him out. I thought maybe he should have gone for that, but I may have had it wrong. As I say, it's very hard to identify players in all of this. But I certainly felt that Antonio's technique let him down today, and Fornell struggled to get in the game as well. Benrahma took up some good positions and actually got himself later on in a good position to have a shot. It was a left-footed shot, but it was sort of weak and skimmy, and as we would have called it a P-roller at school. And the keeper claimed it relatively easily. I've got to say, actually, that keeper, the Man City keeper, I was really impressed. There was one point in the second half where we had a corner, or that was a free kick, wasn't it? And the ball came over, and you just couldn't see anything. He jumped up and he claimed it, caught the ball. Don't know how he managed that. Really very impressive. He obviously saw it a lot better than anybody else did. Was really tough though for us attacking because we couldn't get the ball to stick at all. As I say, even though Benrahma was getting into some half decent positions, he wasn't really able to do anything with it, and we just carried on getting more and more bogged down and more sucked in, and the sort of back five quickly became a back seven. Realistically, Masuaku was actually at the start was actually getting some half decent possession in and around the sort of the midfield area, which I think was encouraging him to move up the pitch. Don't have a problem with that under normal circumstances because that's really what Masuaku does. Unfortunately, I think he got his tail up a little bit with it, and with the small bits of possession we did enjoy in the first half, it sort of left a gap. And you know what, the goal came from that gap that Masuaku should have been filling, basically. I think the ball was fizzed over by possibly Mahrez. Now, I've got to be honest with you, the conditions were awful, and I don't really blame anyone in the middle because once that ball is fizzed over in those conditions, and the conditions were so bad, I'm going to work on the assumption that a lot of people had streams that were cutting out like I had as well. So you might not even seen this, but as the ball was sort of played over by Mahrez, there was already trails being made in the snow at this point. And it was really anybody's. And what happened was it was Gundogan who reacted. He reacted quicker than Johnson. There's no two ways about it. Johnson will be disappointed that he didn't anticipate the situation better. As I say, I don't want to go too hard on anyone like that, though, because I think there were, at that point, I think it was really, really hard to even see the ball for a lot of them. So what I do know is I think if Masuaku had been in his position, then possibly that ball wouldn't have been able to get across anywhere, or at least Mahrez would have had to work a little bit harder to get the ball over, really. I really felt at that point they were 1-0 up. City were just far. They were just faster over the surface. It was really coming down heavy, so heavy. I just wonder if I actually thought hopefully they'll postpone the game here and it'll be null and void and we'll have to replay it because there was no. If you go back and watch that again, I don't suggest you do because it's an awful thing to watch. Actually, that game. But if you do, West Ham got progressively worse the more it snowed. Our best point in that game was when the pitch was at its clearest. Towards the end of the half, City were just controlling the ball, controlling the slippery ball a lot better than we were. And as I say, I guess because they're just lighter, smaller, faster, they didn't seem to get bogged down in the snow. They were zipping around. They handled it. They handled it well. They did play well in the snow. Half time, 1-0 Manchester City. And the ground staff, magnificent. I looked at it, I thought there's no way they're going to clear that pitch in half time. I don't know if they was half time a little bit longer than it normally was to allow them to clear the pitch. Maybe it was. I don't know. I went and made a cup of tea. But fair play. You know, ground staff, crikey, they earned their money today, because by the start of the second half, it was a green pitch again. Unfortunately, I think it felt like it had sort of sucked the life out of us that first half, really, and it was really difficult. Benrahma injured him. No one injured him. Not anyone's fault. Benrahma injured himself trying to stop the ball going out of play when we were attacking. He tried to play on for a little bit. It didn't quite happen. Benrahma was to eventually go off for Manuel Lanzini. Now, whilst this was happening, whilst they were trying to work out exactly what the substitution was, I think initially they were going to swap Benrahma for Bowen, and they were going to do Fornals for Lanzini. But in that time, Cresswell injured himself as well. So again, nobody's fault. Well, actually, I think it was somebody's fault. They got a counter attack because Antonio just passed them the ball. And it was, our technique had gone by this point. By the way, there was a lot of players whose technique had gone. And Antonio was as big a culprit as anyone. They sprung a counter attack on us, and Cresswell, in his endeavours to try and clear the ball off the line. Oh, by the way, I need to tell you about Johnson clearing the ball off the line. I forgot to mention that. Cresswell, in his endeavours to clear the ball off the line, slid in, but obviously it was such a slippery, icy surface. He slid all the way in, hit the post, and I think, you know, he basically hit the post at the base of his back. I hope he'll be all right. But I mean, it seemed really sore. He tried to play on, but it weren't ever going to happen. So the double substitution took on a slightly different composition because Soufal came on for Cresswell. So that was a double substitution rather than the other one as well. So we had Lanzini for Benrahma and Cresswell for Soufal. I just obviously want to say that they had another attack in the first half, and Ben Johnson, I thought, sort of redeemed himself for his role in the goal because he cleared the ball off the line. Really, really nice. Really nice clearance. But anyway, so it's 1-0. Lanzini comes on immediately. Well, at least from Lanzini, our passing's better. That being said, we were overall the game today. Our passing was not good enough, and we will blame the conditions. Our passing and our ball control is a real feature of the game. There's so many people losing the ball today. I almost feel guilty digging people out for it, because I think it would have been really difficult. But this is sort of my point. When it gets to really bad conditions like that, the better players just handle it better. If there's an icy ball with snow all over it, if your technique's better, you tend to be able to deal with it a little bit better. And there were a few who really sort of struggled just to control the football, pass the football. Lanzini wasn't one of those. I felt he was unlucky not to start. I don't know why Lanzini didn't start, actually. And it's something I'm going to be dealing with in the next. There's a couple of issues in the first team that I want to deal with in the next couple of days, because I've got to make the disclaimer, because there'll always be some numpty who'll turn around and say, "Oh, mate, you know, get a grip. West Ham are having a good season." I know West Ham are having a good season. This is a review from the Manchester City against West Ham game. But what do we do to actually improve it? I know we're having a good season, but do we not really point it out when people don't play well just because we're having a good season? I think we've got 2 or 3 players that are off form, and I think certainly one of them, Lanzini, can take his place, and Lanzini should be getting first team start at the moment in the Premier League, that's for sure. And I don't say that just because of his wonder goal at the end, and he did score a wonder goal, by the way. But I think it's something that really needs to be looked at. I think there's 2 or 3 players who maybe Moyes might want to sort of tweak with that. I just want to go back to Masuaku, if I may, and his role in sorry, not the equaliser. There was no equaliser. Sorry, Masuaku's role in the opener. He sort of vacated the space he was meant to occupy, and that's exactly the space that Mahrez took up. I mentioned this earlier on, but apparently, I didn't see. It's very hard to watch. Very grainy footage. Very hard. Complete white out on the screen as well. but Moyes wasn't happy with it. Apparently, Moyes was telling him off. I've got to be honest with you. It's the sort of thing. It's the sort of thing that I think will convince Moyes. That's it. You've got no future here. It's not that it wasn't going to happen anyway, but I think that sort of thing will absolutely infuriate Moyes, which. And I wouldn't blame him at all. And if he's ever looked at anything, actually, mate, I can't play you. I can't use you there at all. Look, whether it worked or whether it didn't work, and I've got to be honest with you, I don't overly for them scoring. Well, I can tell you how they scored both goals actually, but for them scoring their first goal, I don't overly blame the formation. I think the formation was working. If Masuaku had been there, I don't think they'd have conceded that goal. He's playing with the 3 at the back, or the 5 at the back, or the 7 at the back, as it became. He's excuse me, he's playing that because of the lack of a left-footed centre half. If Masuaku can't play there, then he can't really play that formation. Anyway, that's well, it's not that. That's not the end of the review. But basically, our passing just wasn't good. Only at the end, Mike Masuaku did go off. Bowen came on. Immediately looked a little bit more lively. We just looked a bit better with the combination of Bowen and Lanzini on the pitch. Certainly, unfortunately, it wasn't light years after that particular point when City made it 2-0, and it's quite near the end actually. It probably looks like a better goal than it was. It was. They do pass it well, and I praise City plenty in this review. But I think what happened was, I think Lanzini won. Possibly they had a corner. They tried to play a couple of triangles. Lanzini won the ball back, and we had very, very little space. So Lanzini played it into Antonio. Antonio couldn't control the pass, and then Man City picked it up. It got a couple of passes, got played square to Fernandinho, just arrived on the pitch, and he finished well. So that was 2-0. It was funny. It was also almost 3-0 because Declan Rice was dispossessed in the middle. And then Bernardo Silva was played through, and Chip, the goalkeeper, was a really lovely finish actually, but it was offside, so that goal didn't count. Fortunately. Rice was really frustrated, but because I felt he really tried really, really hard today. But I got to tell you, I felt Souček and his body language. I'm not talking about him the way he played. I thought he tried everything he really could today. But there's a player that looks fed up. He looks fed up. I've got to say, it doesn't look right. Well, I can't say any more than that. He looks completely frustrated. He looks completely and utterly fed up, actually. And it's something. We might want to look. We might want to look at that and see what happens there. I actually wrote down. Wrote down. I mean, notes. Souček looks frustrated. We scored a goal at the end. And funny enough, it was actually Lanzini that nicked the ball off Fernandinho, nicked the ball off him, and then I think it bounced once possibly. I unleashed a half volley of a really good goal, a really, really good goal. Wonderful strike actually. So the scoreline was 2-1. I think that was actually the last kick of the game. But what I would say about this particular game is, my point is there was never any time that it was going to get back to 2-2, but it was a great goal. Even in the Wolves game, I felt, even though we were crap, I thought we were crap against Wolves, by the way. But I think it was the last 6 minutes against Wolves, we were kept on putting the ball into the Wolves box, and I actually thought in that game we might get a goal here. We could draw this game. Even though I don't think we'd have deserved to, because Wolves were better than West Ham. This was different. I never thought at any point in that second half, we can get back into this game and we can do better than Man City. I just thought they handled the conditions a lot better. Actually, the conditions weren't that bad in the second half. I thought we'd exhausted ourselves so much in the first half. They'd given us the run around. I remember looking at one point, they had 93% possession. It was tough. It was really, really tough for us actually today, and we just met a better team who handled conditions a lot better than we did, and we just cannot give the ball away like that. I'll just that. Otherwise, it gets to another video aside from the review, and I just want me to be reviewing the game here. But at some point, it needs to be addressed. We've got basically our attacking unit is not firing at the moment. It's really not. There's a lot of players out of form, and it's something that we're going to need to address. But I'm not suggesting throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So I think today I was quite impressed actually with how we started. I think we would have troubled a lot of teams today. I think my biggest issue at the moment is we don't really look like scoring goals. Whereas, and actually, they're the 2 goals that Man City scored. I do. I think if Masuaku had been in position, I don't think they score that one. And I think actually, if Antonio had controlled the ball for when Manzini passed it to him, they don't score the second goal either. So I think you can look at it and see how the defense can be shored up a little bit. The attack is slightly more worrying at the moment because it just is. But anyway, I don't think that was an isolated game. I still think we're in good form. I can see a couple of comments about the Brighton game and whatnot. I think we'll deal with the Brighton preview when it comes up. I think if we'd been playing Brighton today on a pitch where it wasn't snowing, I think West Ham win today. I think we were motivated. I think we looked all right, but the energy that we took because we couldn't get the ball, because we couldn't control the ball, and because people kept on giving it away. The shift that Rice and Souček had to put in. I mean, no wonder they were just no wonder we were just struggling at the end. They must have been absolutely knackered. Anyway, look, listen, stop. I don't. If there's a troll in the chat, I can't. I'm on my own, so I can't deal with it. If there's a troll in the chat, just try to ignore him. Easy for me to say. Says the person that always that never ignores trolls. But apologies. Yeah, look, there's not a lot more to say about that, really. Crappy old end to the weekend, isn't it? Fair play to the fans. 2-0 down, singing bubbles. The loudest people in that stadium today were the West Ham fans, and obviously they were completely outnumbered as well. But not, and fair play to any. I think tough for all the players to play in those conditions, as I said at the start of the video. Fair play. And there was one point where the linesman gave an offside when it was going down. He was looking across the line, and I thought, fair play, mate. Fair play. How he's seen that? I've no idea, but he did. Horrible. One to forget. I'm pleased we don't have to do that again. I hope the weather conditions are not like that for the next game. That's for bloody sure. Bad day at the office, folks. Bad day at the office, and I think a lot of things conspired against us. I will say this though. I do think had those conditions not been like that, I think we might have seen a slightly different result. I'm not saying we necessarily would have won, but I don't think we would have seen the utter City dominance today. I think we would have contested the game more. And the fact of the matter is we didn't contest the game really today. I don't think what I don't want to do is us keep making excuses for it. I think David Moyes needs to tweak things again, have a little look, and needs to freshen up the attack a little bit. I think Bowen being in there it's massive. See, here's the interesting thing. If you call our attackers, let's say our attackers are these players, right? Let's say they're Ben Rama, let's say they're Fornals, Antonio, Bowen, and Lanzini. I don't want to include Yarmolenko. So, okay, if we say those are our attackers, who would you say out of those 5 players are in form? I would say it was Bowen and Lanzini. You might differ with that slightly, but I think out of those 5, Bowen and Lanzini are the ones that are in form, and those guys didn't start today. So because they look the guys most likely to create something at the moment. So look, with 2 of those guys out there, maybe if Ben Rama and Fornals don't start and Lanzini and Bowen do, you're seeing a different Antonio. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe not. But I don't think it's the end of the world. I really don't. Not for this one. It's just a bit of a shame. We're losing a little bit of momentum now. We've dropped 6 points in the last 2 games, and we were going to need to address that. We really need to address that going forward. January, I'll be talking about this in the week. I want to talk about Lanzini. I want to talk about the Antonio. Just a lack of competition for Antonio. I don't think it helps anybody. really, including Antonio. I think the geezer could do with a couple of weeks rest, quite frankly, but he can't have one because we don't have any other options there. Listen, anyway, I'm dragging on 25 minutes nearly of a review of a game that was pretty crap, really. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. You can't make a silk purse out of a scrotum, can you? Let's be perfectly honest. So I do apologise, and I also apologise for that analogy as well. Enjoy what's left. What is it? R4. Enjoy what's left of your weekend, and I will catch up with you very, very soon.